Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our short webinar with our United Way partners. I'm thrilled to have you join us today. My name is Adrian Bordone. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships with GuideStar. We're also joined today by two of my colleagues, Tim Reichschneider, who's Director of Business Development. You see his contact information there on the bottom of this opening screen, and Gabe Cohen, who leads our marketing and communications efforts. We have an agenda today that's really going to drive toward some need-to-know information and some nice-to-know information. We appreciate you joining today and appreciate you sharing some initial responses on the poll that we had waiting while you were waiting for the webinar to start. Just as a quick reminder, the poll results that we're seeing, about just under 90% of the attendees on today's webinar have voted. And most, nearly 2/3, are interested in all three of the capabilities that we're going to review today. Thanks again. Some quick housekeeping information. Everyone is on listen-only mode. We are recording this this webinar for other registrants who are unable to attend. So if you would like to get a copy of this, we'll make sure that that goes out to you if you want to share any of this information with colleagues in your community. And regarding back and forth as far as discussion and Q&A, we will be using the chat box, which you see on the right-hand side of your navigation pane. Please feel free to identify me, Adrian Bordone, or Cody, another colleague of ours who's monitoring chat, or Gabe in those chat windows if you have any questions. So with that, we'll get started. GuideStar is thrilled to be a United Way preferred partner. I personally am a former board member of the United Way of Central Maryland. I spent 6 years there on the board, just actually rolled off my second 3-year term at the end of June. I've been with GuideStar for 9 months, but I'm really eager to share with you some ways in which I think GuideStar's tools and resources can support you in the work that you do every day in support of the communities and families and organizations that you serve. So our quick agenda here has a few components. We'll get started almost with an overview of what GuideStar has to offer in general, and then we'll jump into some tools and resources that are part of our preferred partner program. Those are listed here under the Need to Know category. At the conclusion of the Need to Know, which should take us to about the 30-minute mark of our webinar today, we'll pause for a Q&A. Again, we'll use that chat functionality if anyone has any questions. Then there's some things that we want to share about where GuideStar is going in the future, GuideStar profiles and GuideStar for grant applications, both of which I think are relevant to leaders in the United Way sector and the communities and organizations they serve and represent. So we invite you to continue on for the second half of today's webinar to learn a little bit about where GuideStar is today and where we're going. So we're really happy to have quite a few individuals and organizations who've signed up to attend today's webinar. As I mentioned, those who are not on today's webinar will get a recorded copy. Those who are, we'll certainly send those around as well. And this really represents a small subset of the total partners that are using our tools and resources today. You see a sort of list here. I know the United Way community is very intimate with one another, so there's undoubtedly a number of your colleagues in other communities around the country who you may notice on this list. To see it a little more geographically, we have United Way partners all over the country, and our collaborative work with United Ways is growing weekly at this point, thanks in no small part to our new participation as a preferred partner in the United Way network. So as a quick overview for those of you who may not be familiar with GuideStar as an organization, we are a nonprofit. We have been working to make 990 data available to the public for well over 2 decades. The data that we have in our database, and right now we have data on 2.4 million organizations, and we have just under 2.6 billion pieces of data, is really primarily coming from 2 sources. of course, the IRS, which is the source of our 990 data, and nonprofits themselves. You'll see in the nice to know component how nonprofits are updating their profiles in GuideStar and providing a tremendous amount of information about the outcomes and results that they're achieving, the service areas that they provide, etc. But you see here on the left the source of our data, and on the right you'll see the sort of destination or users of our data. So the vast majority of individuals who are using our GuideStar's data to make intelligent decisions about the organizations they support are nonprofit executives, donors, and foundations, of course, and United Ways, and partners in our what's called our data distribution network. So it's important to sort of recognize, as we're talking about the data that GuideStar collects and the data that we distribute, it's not just the 7 million users who log in and out of GuideStar.org every year, and many of you may use our search resources to be able to help provide critical information for you as you learn more about the community you serve. We also have another more than 30 million individuals who gain access to our data through our API network. This is a way in which we share data with our digital partners, our fund partners, our corporate partners. Each of these, this is a small subset of the over 200 data distribution partners that we have. Each of these organizations increases the visibility of a nonprofit by virtue of putting their GuideStar data, which is all of the nonprofit data, on their website. For example, Amazon Smile, which you see in the lower right-hand corner, when you use Amazon Smile and when you search for a charity or an organization that you want to support through Amazon Smile, you are searching GuideStar's database. So all of the information that organizations have in GuideStar's database is available and accessible to millions of users who are using Amazon Smile, and they have no idea that that is pulling GuideStar data. We have the same relationship, as I mentioned, with over 200 organizations and companies, that some of which you see listed here. So the important takeaway here is GuideStar is really a data hub as well as a distribution channel that can help strengthen the fundraising efforts of the organizations in your community. So let's take a quick look at the first tool, a critical resource for United Ways and organizations in the sector. So Financial Scan is a collaborative tool that we've developed with the Nonprofit Finance Fund. We know that the two most important components that are catalysts for giving are an individual's perception of the financial sustainability or the stability and the maturity of an organization, and the effectiveness of that organization. So we use 990 data and pull that data into a templated format that allows individuals, whether they be representatives from an organization, so you could imagine a board member from an organization in your community, or yourselves as sort of an umbrella organization who's seeking to better understand the financial fragility or strength of the organizations in your community. What the Financial Scan tool does, it allows you to identify an organization and then look at aggregated data sets going back 5 years, and then allow you to compare an organization's data with other similar organizations in your community. You see on the left-hand side the data sets that are pulled out of GuideStar's database, of course, from the 990s. And on the right-hand side, your ability to say, great, I understand how this organization's financial trajectory looks, but I want to understand how this organization's finances look relative to other peer providers in the community. So is this organization more or less stable, more or less fragile financially than other organizations that we may choose to fund in our community? This is really critical intelligence that can inform your grant-making decisions. You may choose to deliberately fund those organizations that are a little more fragile in order to give them the foundation they need to succeed. Or you may choose to provide advice and support, maybe not funding, to an organization that may be on the precipice of not having the funds it needs to be able to deliver effective services. So again, Financial Scan is a collaborative tool made available through GuideStar. It's a collaboration between the Nonprofit Finance Fund and GuideStar, and it really provides you with longitudinal financial data on individual organizations and comparable or benchmark data for an organization, allowing you to compare that organization's finances with up to 5 other organizations that you may select from our database. Here's a sort of snapshot of the report itself. You see that on the right. Expenses, revenue, profitability, balance sheet information, liquidity, peer comparisons, and ultimately the ability to say for both an organization and a board, as well as you as leaders and stewards of intelligence about the strength of the sector in your communities, gives you the opportunity to really have intelligent discussions with donors in your community who may have concerns or may not fully be aware of the perils or the opportunities that exist from a financial perspective for in the community of practice in your region. So our next tool is our Pro Search. So virtually everyone who has any awareness of GuideStar has recognizes that we are the source of this sort of inquiry, a place where you can search and find information that you need about organizations. You may know, if you use GuideStar's search regularly, that in August of this year we rolled out a significant enhancement to our search functionality. You see the evidence of that here. Our historic search had a landing page where you were prompted to check boxes to select what filters you want to apply. When you would submit, the result set would generate in a second or following page. The challenge with that, of course, one is that that result set would generate in seconds, depending on how much volume you selected. There may be a slight time delay. And additionally, you would not see the result set until you had left the filter page. So you may find yourself with a set of results that are not consistent with your expectations. And then you'd have to go back, of course, to the previous page, reset your filters, and then go back and see if that's what you got. What the new search allows you to do, on the left-hand side, you have all of these sliders, and this right-hand side is really the result set that's generated in real time. So as you change sliders, the result set is changing in real time, showing you the number of organizations that result in your search and then listing those organizations. So it really gives you a very responsive, real-time snapshot of, giving you a sense, what am I finding what I'm looking for? And you can do this simultaneously back and forth. So you see the new search features offer the ability to search by geography, by type of organization, and by financials. You see these sliders that allow you to slide up and down a continuum. If you want to filter for larger organizations or smaller organizations within a geography or within an organization type. You see these Premium and Pro capabilities that are listed on the right-hand side here. Pro Search offers another 19 filters and features that really allow you to get granular into an organization or into a data set. If you're representing yourself as an expert in the nonprofit sector in your community, you really want to make sure that you have access to a tool set like this. Of course, the Pro and Premium offers the ability to save and download the results if you want to do your own analysis, or share those results with other colleagues in your office or board members. We'll take a moment in the latter part of today's discussion to share our updates on what's called platinum level. So increasingly organizations are not just telling us about their organization in a narrative way, but also updating the results that they're seeing on a year-over-year basis. We'll see that evidence in a moment. That results data is increasingly top of mind for donors, top of mind for organizations who want to distinguish themselves among their peers in an increasingly competitive funding environment. Pro also offers some dynamic reporting capabilities. You see the way in which we represent financial data. This is represented year over year. Graphically, we can dive into this and see what the correlation is between revenue and expenses. Increasingly, we'll be able to show correlation between expenses and quantitative results that organizations are tracking, but this really provides a level of visibility and understanding of an organization's financial stability and its growth in many cases at a much higher level of detail than our standard search does. Our charity check tool is, as I mentioned here, the most popular product that GuideStar offers. We have just over 1,100 not public and private foundations using Charity Check every day to verify that the organizations that they are supporting financially are in fact tax-exempt organizations, and that they have all of the compliance pieces and due diligence pieces in place so that there's a constant source of trusted intelligence about that organization's current status. I'm going to take a moment here and let Tim talk a little bit about how Mile High United Way uses Charity Check today. Tim?
Thank you, Adrian. So one of our 48 United Way chapters that use our Charity Check tool is Mile High United Way, and they made a decision to use GuideStar as opposed to Google, as opposed to maybe checking out the IRS website and looking for charities there, instead of using the GuideStar Search tool, which is a great tool, but it is not a charity verification tool. You can find 1.8 million organizations on the search tool, but you cannot verify that those organizations are, as of right now, nonprofit organizations as far as the IRS is concerned. So what Mile High United Way did is they purchased, actually they purchased 4 seats of Charity Check from GuideStar, and now instead of just depending on a determination letter from the nonprofit and then crossing their fingers each year that that organization continues to be a nonprofit organization in the eyes of the IRS, they can come to the GuideStar website, type in the EIN number of an organization, and in seconds they're able to pull up the status of that organization checked against the Internal Revenue Service Business Master File, the Pub 78 update of the Business Master File, the revoked for cause list, and of course the U.S. Treasury Department's OFAC Overseas Terrorist Watch List. So that Mile High United Way and 48 other chapters have had great success in being able to generate this report and then save it as a PDF or print it out if they need it. And there, behold, is a copy of a Charity Check report. You can see in red there, clearly there are some issues with this particular chapter or this particular organization that would warrant further investigation before you monetarily support them in any way.
Thanks, Tim.
Next, sure.
Yeah, the important takeaways, folks, the fact that you find an organization on GuideStar.org when you do a search in no way is sufficient for establishing that organization as in compliance or in active as a tax-exempt organization. This is a misunderstanding that we find every day. Folks think, oh, if the organization is in GuideStar, then it must have a tax-exempt status. That is a misunderstanding. The Charity Check does the date and time stamped check. So on this date, at this time, this organization does or does not have issues related to its tax-exempt status or is fully tax-exempt and eligible to receive tax-deductible donations. So the date and time stamp is critical. You're making giving decisions and stewarding dollars to organizations. When those dollars are distributed, the charity needs to have to be in good standing in this regard. Again, Charity Check is that trust but verify component, and GuideStar Search, while it is helpful to gain intelligence about an organization, is not the Charity Check function that philanthropic and grant-making organizations need to use to determine that that organization is eligible to receive tax-deductible donations.
Exactly.
So, as Tim just mentioned, and I'll let him speak to another case study we have in a moment, but there's another component to Charity Check. He just mentioned that United Way, Mile High United Way, has 4 seats of Charity Check. They have a team of folks who are going online and determining what the organization's status is at any given time. But we know, I know certainly personally, having been on the board, and everyone on this call knows, that United Ways are funding thousands of organizations a year, some small, some large, in their grant making. And doing an individual search for each organization that you fund through Charity Check may be efficient if you're funding dozens or maybe 100 organizations, but if you're funding hundreds or thousands of organizations, you should also be aware of what we call bulk Charity Check. And bulk Charity Check allows us to set up a service that provides you with a similar level of intelligence, but does so across a wider array of the grantees for whom you're researching their charitable status. Tim, tell us a little bit about Central Carolinas.
So United Way of Central Carolina has 2 major gift distribution times during the year. And at those times, they send out support to over 800 charities at a time. That's a lot of Charity Check reports for a single person to be sitting and typing in over and over. And in fact, it's probably about 40 hours worth of work each time they do these large distributions. What United Way of Central Carolina takes advantage of is GuideStar's offer of doing a bulk Charity Check product. They deliver to us the 800 EIN numbers they wish to check at one time. GuideStar runs this list of EIN numbers through our database, and within 5 business days, typically much faster than that, we deliver back a report to the chapter that alerts them to the exact status of those 4 different points of checking that we do, to let them know that each one of those organizations is A-OK with the Business Master File, Pub 78, that they're not revoked, and that they're not on the OFAC checklist. It comes in one single, easy-to-read report. That quick analysis of it can bring them directly to the nonprofits that might be in need of further investigation prior to their being receiving monetary support from the chapter of the United Way. So this is just a quick piece of a sample of the bulk Charity Check report that they received back, and they have been, as they put it, have saved hundreds of hours worth of work for that organization to provide them very quickly with the information they need, and again, which allows them to audit-proof their support of the nonprofits in their area.
Thanks, Tim. So again, the bulk Charity Check allows one individual to use GuideStar's tools and resources to check hundreds or thousands of charities and their tax-exempt status in one fell swoop. It allows that to be done with very little effort, and it provides this time and date stamped validation that verifies that charity's tax-exempt status at the time of giving, which is critical for our due diligence and our auditing, etc. So Charity Check, again, our most popular tool set, used by over 1,100 organizations who are grant-making organizations to fulfill their obligations to the donors that they represent, to demonstrate that the organizations that they are funding are, in fact, in good standing as tax-exempt organizations.
Exactly.
So that's the 3 tools that are on today's agenda as need to know, and they are part of our United Way Preferred Partner Program offering Through the United Way offering, we are providing a 20% discount on all three of these tools. You see here, and we will send around at the conclusion of today's webinar, the links if you have an interest in taking advantage of any of these tools. And then you see at the bottom the United Way 20 discount code that we would encourage you to take advantage of. That really concludes the need-to-know portion of today's discussion. I want to open it up to chat. We know Tim is out and about with in our communities and is constantly fielding questions about these tools, and we want to sort of make sure there's a chance for folks to get their questions asked and answered. Hold on one moment as I open our question screen. And so we have a comment in from Michelle Tapper regarding an instance she ran into where the agency was vetted on GuideStar but no longer existed and had closed. Is there a place we can report things like this? Certainly, Michelle. I don't know that yes, my contact information is on here. We have a support team that can help resolve those issues. You should know that GuideStar retains 990 information from organizations well after, if they've closed their doors, we still house that historical archive or legacy information. So it is not uncommon if you're looking deep into our database, as far back as 20 years ago, you might find a 990 on an organization or an organization that is shown on our website that is no longer in existence. So we certainly are we are very active in monitoring our own data for cleanliness. You may not know this, but our data gets hand entered. It's double hand entered, in fact. So we are really as precise as we can be around the quality of our data, but we do have an open dialogue with lots of folks who have either questions or identify idiosyncrasies or things that need to be resolved in the database. So, in the future, please reach out to us directly and we'll help determine what the cause of that is. Maybe it's a systems issue, maybe it's a user issue, or maybe it's just the fact that this is an archive record that exists that we retain for auditing purposes, but may not necessarily represent that the organization is still in existence.
Or an IRS issue,
yes,
as the business master file comes out once per month, and if you have someone who has recently gone out of business, it may take a little bit for the IRS to catch up and then update us with regard to their status.
Very good point, Tim. Thank you. Second question comes in from Lori. Does the 20% discount apply to current GuideStar customers? Tim, you want to field that one?
Absolutely. And the answer is on your next renewal, please feel free to use that discount code, and that will be applied to you with your renewed product.
Thank you, Tim. Just looking through our chat box. Folks, if there are, again, we have a question forum on the right-hand side. If you have any questions about how to take advantage of these tools, if you have questions about any functionality that we described today, we want to field those. Without additional questions, we're going to switch to some other things we want to share, and then we'll have a final comments and questions section at the end.
And if you're, please feel free to take down my email address or phone number and ask your questions anytime in the future.
Great. Thanks, Tim. So we'll transition now to two things that you should be aware of as sector leaders that represent the nonprofit community in your regions. So you may know, if you're a regular user of GuideStar, that our profile page, which is the landing page where most users find themselves after the search, has recently changed. This changed late last year. You see the old version here, and you see the new version here. Hopefully you notice a more design-friendly and user-friendly interface. You also should notice that the old structure, because we positioned financial data and 990 data on the left-hand side, it was predominantly what folks were looking for and what they found. But that really diminished the importance of programs and impact to the detriment of the sector and to the detriment of the organizations that we represented. So we've really taken you can see immediately that the financial data is now moved to the right of the programs and results data. We have a much more easy to use sort of interface. You do see the tax forms and 990 data still listed on the right hand side. But hopefully you notice that we've really brought our interface into the 21st century, and this is an exciting enhancement for us. Many of you, if you're using the GuideStar interface today, you've already noticed and seen this. But not only did we enhance the interface, we also made it so that an organization can supplement the information they're sharing with as many as 30 million viewers. You heard earlier that GuideStar's data feeds more than 30 million users around the country and around the globe, many of whom log into GuideStar.org. Many others gain access to our data through our data distribution partners like CrowdRise, like Amazon Smile, like Google, etc. So we have a tiered level of transparency that organizations can take ownership of their profile and add information that represents them more fully to the individuals who are supporters and stakeholders of those organizations. So the 4 levels are bronze, which is confirming information about how to find an organization, particularly if you're seeking to provide a grant or support to that organization. Silver information, of course, speaks to the importance of financials and how important they are to donors who are making decisions about the viability of an organization. And then our 2 sort of results-focused levels of transparency. Our gold level, which is charting impact. This is the way in which an organization declares and demonstrates that it makes a difference in the lives of the individuals and families it serves. And our newest edition, Platinum, which rolled out in May of 2016, highlights the different results that an organization can show. So as we take a look at this today, you might imagine landing on the profile page of Habitat for Humanity of Omaha. You would see all the information generally provided, some graphing information of finances, the growth of the organization from an FTE perspective, of course its key incorporation and ruling year, its 990 information, all of the contact information here. But increasingly, we can go right to the results of that organization. How does this organization measure its success? Well, we see here that the Habitat for Humanity of Omaha is using GuideStar to demonstrate that it's successful in helping people move from unsafe or substandard housing as a result of their efforts. So they have self-entered their longitudinal data going back to 2009 and showed increasing growth year over year through the use of our Platinum results tracker. You also see over on the right-hand side, they explain how they do this, and they go into even greater detail, in their gold level, sorry about that, where they articulate their strategies, their theory of change, or their logic model. This is where they substantiate their ability to make the difference in the lives of the individuals they serve. We also see, forgive me on my rapid scroll there, we also see their financial information, their board information, and stakeholder success, or external reviews. This is the constituent feedback portion of the profile as well. Increasingly, we know that constituent voice is a primary driver for likely effectiveness of an organization and a community. So again, if you land on the page on GuideStar.org, you really start being able to dive in and learn more and more about the organization, the results it's achieved, how it goes about achieving those results, what finances is required to achieve those results, who's leading the organization, and what the community has to say about the work and the results that they're seeing. The profile, as I mentioned a moment ago, the Platinum component is really the newest component and is being quickly adopted by many organizations who use their data to demonstrate that they are, successful. Here's an example of how an organization goes in and adds its Platinum data. We have a library of over 800 common results that are freely published on GuideStar's webpage. You can search that library using common language search. It's called Elasticsearch. So you find ways in which different results align with one another. Here you see employment pulls back work and job and employment and internships, things that are categorically similar. An individual can select one of those, or they can add their own metric. In this case, they've selected one from the drop-down list, and they're offered the opportunity to submit as many years of that data as they choose to. They can put notes about those results so that they're communicated to a growing audience of viewers. And then those results, as you saw in the Omaha example, are shared graphically for the viewers who are logging in and out of GuideStar on that web page. Today we have about 1,100 organizations who've updated their profile all the way up to platinum. The good news is we've got, as you see on the right-hand side here, about 72% of the organizations have selected results from our Common Results Catalog. About 28% of organizations have added a result that did not exist in our Common Results Catalog. The Common Results Catalog is a growing document. We review it quarterly and add those critical pieces that we might have missed to the catalog so that future users will find a more and more robust and reflective set of results. If you do the math here, you see that most organizations are submitting 3 to 4 metrics that show their results. And increasingly, we hope by the end of next year to have between 5,000 and 10,000 organizations having shared their results. What will that mean long term? That means that we will eventually be able to benchmark organizations based on results, based on finances, based on organization type, based on you name it, any number of factors. We're going to be able to publish that and share that information with you. Increasingly, if you're using our Pro Search, you're going to be able to see that information and use that to inform your giving decisions. The last component that we'll review today is our GuideStar for grant applications. This is the newest functionality that GuideStar is making available in the marketplace. GuideStar for grant applications allows that profile information. As a nonprofit updates that profile, it can be used to auto-populate a grant application. So if your organizations in your community have their profiles updated, and if you're using a partner and choose to activate GuideStar for grant applications, which I'll show details of toward the conclusion of today's presentation, your partners can auto-complete, your nonprofits can auto-complete your grant application with that information that's already captured in their profile. We have a quick 1-minute video that I want to share for you that sort of highlights this. Hopefully this will be audible for everyone. Go ahead. Thank you, Gabe.
For nonprofits, time isn't just money. It's resources and energy desperately needed to solve society's biggest challenges. A single nonprofit spends hundreds of hours each year filling out grant applications. Multiply that by all nonprofits, and doing good starts looking more like doing paperwork. But foundations have the power to change that. When applying for a grant, GuideStar for grant applications eliminates the need for nonprofits to enter the same information over and over again. Foundations implement this functionality in their grant management software, allowing nonprofits to populate applications with common information from their up-to-date GuideStar nonprofit profiles. That saves nonprofits precious time and provides foundations with consistent standardized data, while still providing the chance to ask unique questions for each grant. Lots of foundations are already using GuideStar for grant applications, but if you're not, get the ball rolling and talk to your grant management vendor. Standardizing the way that we share data strengthens the sector, making it easier for nonprofits to focus on their missions and for foundations to make better decisions. So let's commit to streamlining the grant application process and turn the hours spent filling out applications into hours doing good.
Great, thanks, Gabe. Let me get back to my presentation. So hopefully the gist of that short video helps you understand that an organization who has an updated profile on GuideStar.org and a question has come in that are profiles open to United Way chapters. They certainly are, and they're open to all of your nonprofits in your community. We would strongly encourage you to at least share with them this capability, the capability to update their profile to increase the likelihood that a first impression for a donor or stakeholder is a good impression. But this information doesn't just feed our data distribution network and 30 million viewers. It now can auto-feed a grant application in the same way you might imagine a common college application where the grantee may be able to auto-populate certain information that's consistent across all. You might imagine the first 10 or 15 questions on your grant application, including board information, 990 information, mission statement information, address information, contact information, leadership information, all of that information that really is not unique to that grant application can come directly out of that organization's GuideStar profile. So what does it look like? Here's an example. A funder, a grant-making organization that has GuideStar for grant applications open and turned on would have an icon in the upper right-hand corner for the user. What you're seeing here is what the user or grant-seeking organization might see. They would see a set of questions, and they would have the ability, if the GuideStar for grant applications is linked with this tool, to copy information from their GuideStar profile to auto-populate certain questions in the grant application. You see here in this example, this organization has 6 different data fields that they allow to be auto-populated with the GuideStar for grant applications. There's no limit to the number of these fields. Most have 6 to 12 fields that they're using as part of their grant application that can be auto-populated. You should also know that if I choose, so the grant-seeking organization has the ability to opt into every one of these. It does not force them to auto-populate. They would make a selection of which of these they want to auto-populate and then copy those answers into the grant application. The responses are also editable. So let's say you have a 10 to 12 sentence mission statement and you want to revise that slightly for the particular grant. The nonprofit could fill their mission statement from their profile into the application and then edit it in the application so that it reflects the precise intent and meaning that they want to drive to that reviewer. You see each of the fields where GuideStar's data can auto-populate would show up with this little logo on the left-hand side. Excuse me, sorry for that rapid scroll. And so it's very, it's non-obtrusive. An organization who does not have a profile is it's in no way to their detriment. Or if they haven't updated their profile, they're still fine. They can enter the information they need to enter. But increasingly, we feel like organizations will benefit from the fact that this can save them significant time and energy. We had an early case study with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, who was an early adopter of this tool. They've seen their profile adoption rate go up almost 100% from 2014 to 2015. We're now working with them on their 2016 data. We're also seeing that this generally saves about 2 hours for an individual on a standard grant application. So it can save as much as 2 hours on a grant application. You can imagine if it's a short application, that might may save half of their time. For a more sophisticated and longer grant applications, of course, saving 2 hours is nothing to sneeze at. For smaller organizations, we see this can often double the amount of time that an individual has to seek additional funding by virtue of that time savings. Whoops, excuse me. So here's a quick list. It's not, we don't monitor this for United Ways, but I will say if you use one of these partners as a grants management software provider, this functionality is available to you today. If you have an interest in this functionality and you don't see your grants management software provider here, please contact Tim or me, Adrian, and we will put them on the list and reach out to them. This functionality is out there in the marketplace. It's being capitalized on by a small number of grants management software partners. Please understand there's no limit on the number of partners that can be using this functionality. We just have a limit on how many partners we can be engaging at any one time. So right now we're working very closely with these 6 partners. We have, another 4 in our pipeline. To be frank, CyberGrants is probably the next one that's going to activate this for their philanthropic partners. We hope to have progress on each of these by the end of this year. And then we have a long laundry list of grants management software providers with whom we have to initiate conversation and determine if they and their philanthropic clients are interested in taking advantage of this functionality. So again, we started today's presentation with the need to knows. That is a quick overview of Financial Scan as a tool to reveal the financial sustainability of a nonprofit organization and provide peer-level comparisons of financial viability. We then jumped into Pro Search, which is the advanced search functions that industry experts use to demonstrate their intelligence and knowledge about the sector that they're serving and stewarding. And then the third on the need to know was Charity Check. We reviewed both the Charity Check, a seat of Charity Check, which is used by an individual to check a charity's tax exempt status, and we reviewed Bulk Charity Check, which is more of a technical tool that we make available through our data services team, where an organization can submit a list of hundreds or thousands of organizations to us, and we will run a charity check and then provide them with an auditable report, date and time stamped, that checks the tax exempt status of those organizations for their due diligence purposes. We then transitioned to some nice to know things that we felt it was important for United Way leaders in the sector to know. The first was the ability of the new profiles to be updated by nonprofit organizations so that they can tell their story in a more accurate and compelling way. Those updates are happening throughout the sector today. Right now we have just under 100,000 organizations who've taken ownership of their profile, and then you saw a small subset have come and taken advantage of the fact that they can now capture their results. That profile data is available to our 7 million GuideStar.org users. It also is provided to as many as 30 million viewers who see our data through our data distribution network, so it really expands the reach and visibility of organizations in your community. And then lastly, we talked briefly about the GuideStar for Grant Applications tool. This just became available in the marketplace in the first quarter of 2016, so we're still very new in that, but you noticed that we are taking that profile data and allowing it to auto-populate grant applications to reduce the amount of time spent filling out grant applications for grant seekers. We have a quick question coming in from chat. The question is, what does it cost for a nonprofit to adopt their profile? Profile adoption is free. We also have we regularly run webinars to provide instruction and support for organizations, and those are free as well. We also, for those of you who are interested, offer an in-person service. It is not free, but it's something we do for communities. If you wanted to convene a group of 100 nonprofits in your community, pull them together as part of a workshop, and do a 2 or 4 hour event, and have everyone work with GuideStar in person to get their profiles updated, we also do offer those types of services. There tends to be some costs related to that, of course, some travel related costs and time spent, etc., but there is no cost for an organization to update its own profile. It is 100% free. And by the way, there is no cost for an organization to auto-complete their grant application if you, the United Way, works with one of those partners that we identified, and you make that functionality available to them. So our goal is always to provide as cost-effective and efficient access to data and these tools as possible. Virtually everything we do is free to the nonprofit. There are, of course, some costs associated with some of these premium tools that we reviewed here today: Financial Scan, GuideStar Pro Search, and Charity Check. Those are more focused on you as an audience, the United Way leadership. So I'll pause. We're concluding 7 or 8 minutes before the end of our hour. I'm going to check the questions section one more time and check the chat section one more time to see if we haven't missed anything. Hold on. If you have any questions, great. Okay, so it looks like we've concluded with our Q&A. We're ending a few minutes early. I really appreciate your time today. You see my colleague Tim's information listed here. If you have any questions about any of the things we discussed today, please reach out to him directly. We will also send around this slide deck, and we will send the links that allow you to take advantage of the discount that's available to all United Way partners through the preferred partner program with United Way Worldwide. Without further ado, we thank you again for your time today and wish you a great giving season as we go into the final part of the year. We look forward to partnering with you if you have an interest in using any of these tools and resources. We also look forward to shining as bright a light as we can on the work that you and your communities are doing in order to change the lives of the individuals and families that you serve. Thanks so much for the time today, and we'll talk to you soon.